Yes, sir. Hello again, everyone. I'm Paul the Nitro Skywers, and welcome once again to another edition of the Nitro Corner. It is a special edition of the Nitro Corner today. Excuse there, need to make a little adjustment there. But today's a big day. It is our special birthday blowout edition of the Nitro Corner. We're going to do it big and we're going to do it right here on the Nitro Corner. First off, I'm going to get to some OneCW news I found out, and as I promised this week, I have some OneCW news for you. And then we're going to get to your emails. I only got 2 of them, but 2 is enough. They got plenty of questions. I'll be more than glad to answer them. And then I'm going to tell you a little story about No Holds Barred, the DVD that just got released, that 1989 movie, and how it had an impact on the Dover area. So let's get started, shall we, with our Nitro Corner birthday blowout. And we'll start with some OneCW news. Just found this out this week on the First State Championship Wrestling's Facebook page. OneCW will return on September 15th with the Cavalcade of Champions. Now, I do not know where it will be held at. I'll try to find out more information next week about where it's going to be held at and when tickets go on sale. But OneCW is proud to present the Cavalcade of Champions Saturday, September 15th. And boy, what a card it will have. It will feature the return of the All-American The Patriot. That's right, The Patriot returns to OneCW. He'll be at the Cavalcade of Champions. And 2 title matches have been announced. First, the OneCW Tag Team Championships are on the line as the D-Line, after winning them in a grueling match against the Briscoes in probably a match of the year candidate this past February, are set to defend them against a team that they've been dying to get their hands on for almost a year and a half, the Universal Tag Team Champions, the 900-pound weapons of destruction and pure badness, the Nigerian Nightmares. That's right, the match a year and a half in the making. The Nigerian Nightmares will challenge the D-Line for the OneCW Tag Team titles, but that's not all. You will see the OneCW Cruiserweight title on the line. Now, after, of course, Crazy Shay joined back up with the Hardy faction back at Hearts and Headlocks, it's going to be an interesting sight to see Crazy Shay back with Sean Hardy and the Hardy faction. What Crazy Shay has got a lot on his plate because he will compete and defend his OneCW Cruiserweight title against his main arch rival, Chance Sevenfold. But this is no ordinary match. No. This will be a Falls Count Anywhere, no disqualification match for the Cruiserweight title. Folks, that's just the tip of the iceberg right now for the Cavalcade of Champions, Saturday, September 15th. As I mentioned, next week, hopefully, I'll find out more information about where it's going to be held at, what more matches are going to be signed, and when tickets will become available. You can bet that OneCW will deliver once again with the Cavalcade of Champions, Saturday, September 15th. Now that I got the OneCW news out of the way, it's time for your emails. And I thank those 2 people that sent in their emails. And I always encourage people every time I do this to please send in your emails and your questions. I'll be more than glad to answer them. So without any further ado, it's time to answer your emails. We'll get started with JJ888844 from that's his channel. And he posted this comment on my channel. It reads, and I quote, "Hi, as always, I enjoy your shows. Thank you very much. Here are some questions for your birthday bash. I'll deal with them one at a time. Number 1, who are your top 5 favorite wrestling announcers slash commentators?" Well, that's a pretty good question. Let me give you first a distinction between an announcer and a commentator. A commentator is the one that does all the matches at ringside, calls all the moves, tells the storyline, etc. An announcer is a ring announcer to introduce the matches. That's the distinction that I'm going to use to answer your question. So, I'll begin with the commentators first in my top 5. Number 5 is the late great Gorilla Monsoon. Now Gorilla made a smooth transition from professional wrestler to commentator. He brought a lot of excitement. He was always supporting the baby faces, always supported the good guys, and really brought a level of excitement to the World Wrestling Federation, now known as the WWE, in the 80s and into the early 90s. Gorilla Monsoon, number 5. And his candor with Bobby the Brain Heenan was just perfect. So Gorilla Monsoon is the late Gorilla Monsoon, number 5. Number 4 is the Cowboy, Bill Watts. Bill Watts also was the same in the kind of the mold of Gorilla Monsoon, but there's this distinct difference. The Cowboy got more amp in his voice, more bass in his voice every time the bad guys try to get away with it, and you can sense the realism that Cowboy Bill Watts did every time he did Mid-South Wrestling. Like when Ted DiBiase turned on Hacksaw Jim Duggan in 1983, you could sense that DiBiase, he's a traitor. He's turned on his best friend, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It's disgraceful. You notice there, he put the bass in his voice every time he did commentary, adding a level of realism to it as well. So the Cowboy, Bill Watts, number 4 in our countdown. Number 3, Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon as a commentator in the 70s and into the 80s was just tremendous. Vince McMahon helped carry the broadcast of the WWE. Well, no wonder. He is also the owner of the WWE. And no matter whether you like him or you don't like him, whether you agree with his tactics or not, Vince McMahon as a commentator per se is probably one of the smoothest, probably one of the most excitable commentators that the WWE had ever had throughout the 70s and into the 1980s, and made that smooth transition from commentator to active participant and owner at the same time. So Vince McMahon, number 3 in my countdown of commentators. Number 2, good old JR, Hall of Famer Jim Ross. Jim Ross, the Boomer Sooner, brought a level of passion and excitement to Raw and was really the voice of the Attitude Era. Who would have thought that Jim Ross would be synonymous with the Attitude Era, because he worked with WCW, but you could tell that his style was beginning to build. Even back in the days when he was with Mid-South Wrestling, you could see the genesis of good old JR. And as I said before, JR, the voice of the Attitude Era. I don't think the Attitude Era would work without the voice of good old JR, Jim Ross. He is synonymous, of course, with Monday Night Raw and vice versa. So good old JR, Jim Ross, number 2 in my top 5. And the number 1 greatest commentator, in my opinion, is the Dean himself, Gordon Solie, the late Gordon Solie, the Dean. He knew more wrestling holds. He made it look real, and it was real, according to Gordon. He helped shape my learning of professional wrestling through his commentary, the holds, the psychology, the battle plans of certain wrestlers, and really got you excited about the upcoming events, either the live events or the television events, and he kept a straight face, and he acted like a professional at all times. So Gordon Solie, the late Gordon Solie, the Dean of wrestling announcers, number 1 in my commentary top 5. With the palette a little bit. And now moving on to top 5 ring announcers of all time. Number 5, David Penzer. David Penzer had that distinct voice, that kind of steady type monotone. For instance, I'll try to imitate him. The following contest is set for one fall, and it is for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Now, it sounds like Howard Finkel. You'll have to excuse me there. But David Penzer had that straightforward, little high-pitched sound whenever he made the ring announcements for the matches. So David Penzer, number 5. And he was loyal to WCW as well as TNA during his contract before it was expired. So David Penzer, number 5. Number 4 is the voice of Madison Square Garden, Howard Finkel. That's right, the Fink in Madison Square Garden. I can do that. That was pretty good. And you notice why Howard Finkel's the voice of Madison Square Garden, as well as the voice of the WWE throughout the late 70s, throughout until 1995. He really got into the action of the WWF coming to an arena near you. Yeah, and again, it just brings excitement. It keeps building and building and building. For instance, every time he does a promo for all the house shows, he usually builds something like this. Catch the excitement of the World Wrestling Federation as it comes to an arena near you. This Friday, we're in Chicago, Illinois at the UIC Pavilion. Strike Force and Demolition Sea action in Chicago. And there's your great example of Howard Finkel, the voice of Madison Square Garden in New York City. Howard Finkel, number 4. Number 3 is Dr. Tom Miller, or Tom Miller, but back in the Mid-Atlantic days, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, he was Tom Miller, and he had that straightforward cadence every time. For example, from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And you notice that straightforward cadence that brought the fans instantly into cheering for Ric Flair and booing Harley Race at Starrcade 83. So for that cadence and stuff like that, steady and true, Tom Miller, Dr. Tom Miller, as I like to call him, number 3 in our countdown. Number 2, Gary Michael Cappetta. Did you know Gary Michael Cappetta was a Spanish teacher and probably still is, believe it or not, in New Jersey, if I remember correctly? Gary Michael Cappetta was the voice of the Spectrum in Philadelphia. The following contest is set for one fall with a 1-hour time limit, and it is for the World Wrestling Federation's Heavyweight Championship. And you notice he had that flow. He had the flow every time he did the ring announcements. And every time a title changed hands, for instance, when Tony Garea and Rick Martel won the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championships from the Wild Samoans. And he had that sudden pause. He knew what he was doing. He's trying to get the fans excited about the decision. Ladies and gentlemen, the time of the fall, 12 minutes, 14 seconds. Your winners and new World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions, Rick Martel and Tony Garea. I like that announcement. That was pretty good. Gary Michael Cappetta really brought the passion, the excitement, and he kept moving. That's the thing. It was a nice, quick motion. So Gary Michael Cappetta, the voice of the Philadelphia Spectrum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is number 2 on my list. Boy, we're having fun, ain't we? And my number 1 ring announcer of all time is a voice of the WWF television back in the 70s into the early 1980s, around 1984, Joe McHugh. And I'm Joe McHugh. You notice he goes up and down with his voice. It's distinctive. It's what embodies what the WWE was when it was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, when he did the television throughout the 70s and up to 1984. And he hails from the French Alps, weighing in at 478 pounds. It is Andre the Giant. You notice he's steady with it, but he keeps that high voice of his. And believe it or not, he was around, I think, in his 50s when he first started, and he finished up at age, I think, 64, 65. He's no longer with us. He died in 1991, I think, of emphysema. I'm not really too sure about that, but the late, great Joe McHugh, my number 1 ring announcer of all time. Boy, we're having fun already. I hope I answered your first question. She has 2 more. This person, has 2 more. Second question. Are there any wrestlers that you believe never fully realized their potential? If so, why? Well, I'm going to keep it current because in the past I can name a whole list of people that never really realized their full potential. Sid Vicious be one of them. Don Kernodle could have been a better singles competitor, but he was a master of tag team wrestling. Tony Garea never got the respect he deserved as a great singles wrestler, but yet alone he was settled as a tag team wrestler, although he did very well as a tag team wrestler. So for this question, I'll keep it current. One of them happens to be a guy that's been on a losing streak as of late, and that's Jack Swagger. The all-American really has not lived up to his potential. Yes, he was the world's heavyweight champion, but really, has anyone remembered the world title reign of Jack Swagger? Not me. And ever since then, all he's been doing has been hooking up with Vicky Guerrero. Most recently got dumped by Vicky Guerrero as his manager, and had recently lost to Tyson Kidd this past Friday on SmackDown. So Jack Swagger has certainly not lived up to his full potential. Nick Dinsmore, a.k.a. Eugene. Now, I like the Eugene character. I like the fact that he had skills. He has wrestling skills. He can wrestle, believe it or not. I think he should have been World Heavyweight Champion back in 2004 when he defeated Chris Benoit. Excuse me there. He could have been World Heavyweight Champion. I think he should have been booked as the World Heavyweight Champion. I would have done so. I would have said Chris Benoit tapped out. The referee did not see his foot on the rope. Eugene's the champion, and they would have an interesting feud throughout the summer, switching it back and forth maybe once or twice. So Nick Dinsmore, another guy I felt should have lived up to his potential, but I guess the powers to be decided to keep him down. But he did hold the tag team championships, yes, but he should have been World Heavyweight Champion. Another tag team, and finally a tag team I felt should have gotten full potential, and that's the world's wrestling's greatest tag team, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. Right now they're living up to their potential in Ring of Honor, but no offense to Ring of Honor, they're a great promotion, but couldn't they have lived up to that potential in the WWE? Again, the powers to be decided not to push their tag team division so much, and Haas and Benjamin were kind of lost to the shuffle as far as I'm concerned, but they're getting the respect they deserve right now in Ring of Honor. So the world's greatest tag team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, another a tag team that should have lived up to fully realize their potential. Okay, final question. I understand you are from Delaware. Yes, I currently reside here in Delaware. Did you ever attend any ECWA shows at St. Matthews, which is the St. Matthews Parish Hall in Newcastle, Delaware? If so, do you have any thoughts or memories of Pat Kenny, a.k.a. Simon Diamond? He's a good friend of mine's cousin. Thanks, keep up the good work. Well, thank you for that email. I have never attended an ECWA event, although I will give them a lot of credit. They have really dominated northern Delaware, especially around the Wilmington and Newcastle area with their brand of professional wrestling. They brought in the best talent in the world. Their Super 8 tournament is being world recognized around the world as the place to be for the junior heavyweights in professional wrestling. Plus, they made champions. Christian Cage, Edge, the Hardy Boys, to name a few stars that ECWA, East Coast Wrestling Alliance, molded over the past 30, 40 years in their existence. And they're also one of the longest running independent promotions ever in professional wrestling. Now under new ownership back about 3 years ago, but they still keep on presenting events at the St. Matthews Parish Hall in Wilmington, Delaware. Also, sometimes they do shows in Newcastle as well as in New Jersey, but they have dominated northern Delaware and done a great job up there. As far as Simon Diamond goes, a.k.a. Pat Kenny, I have seen him wrestle twice live here in Delaware, and that was for ECW back in, I believe, July of 1999 and in December of 1999. He is a great piece of talent. I always loved his Simon Diamond gimmick. Simon has a problem, and it really caused instant boos for him. He really did well as a bad guy in ECW. Simon Diamond, a great piece of talent, and right now working for TNA as a road agent, I do believe. And he's a great piece of talent, and I appreciated his contributions to wrestling here in the state of Delaware. Okay, that's one email down from JJ888844 on the YouTube channel. Thank you so very much. Now we move on to our second email, of course, from the YouTube channel. 80s Geek 3 has posted a comment. Okay, here we go. Hi, what's up, dude? Not really much. Just enjoying this Nitro Corner birthday blowout. I just found your channel. I've been really liking the show. Thank you very much. I had a couple of questions for you. Alright? First, there are a number of wrestlers, when I see them on TV, I automatically turn the channel because I can't stand them. And one of them is John Cena. Who hasn't turned off the TV lately for John Cena? Interesting. My question is that since his face status to me is beyond stale, interesting. Would you turn him heel? I could probably get in on a Cena heel character. Well, that's an interesting question. I agree with you that the face, John Cena being a babyface, has gotten real stale. Hasn't really produced any juice, any production. So, turning him heel? Yes. And I'll tell you how you can do that. I think a couple months ago, when I did a Nitro Corner, I mentioned the fact that there was a promo with Rowdy Roddy Piper telling John Cena that you have to make up your mind as to where you need to go because the fans are booing you, some fans are cheering you, you have to make up your mind. Well, he could, right there, could have been the beginning of the heel turn where John Cena could instantly, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, it could have happened at WrestleMania. I mean, John Cena could have turned heel instantly with one move. When The Rock went for a rock bottom, Cena could have given a knee to the groin. I mean, a low blow. And then went on to use some type of foreign object to beat him. And then the next night on Raw, the heel turn would be complete by telling the fans to go stick it. You fans booed John Cena. You booed the Doctor of Thugonomics. Dog, you can't see me. The only thing you can see is the fungus that grows on you every time you don't take a shower. Oh, did I do that? You can't see me. You couldn't see your own future if your life depended on it. You people booed me and you cheered for a clown like The Rock. Son, dog, I ain't into it, man. You can't see me. You can't see your future if your life depended on it. And that would be the premise of his heel turn. So yeah, John Cena turning heel, yes, and that's how you would do it, as far as if I was writing it. Okay, my second question, okay, is who would you consider to be your top 5 jobbers, meaning the undercard, the preliminary wrestlers? My top 5 would be in no particular order: Johnny Rodz, Frank Savage, Steve Lombardi, Jose Estrada, and in the words of the late Gordon Soley, Ed and Ken, the Timms brothers. Ed, of course, is the heavier of the two. As you can see, I went back to old school with my jobbers. Laugh out loud. Have a great night. I'm looking forward to your birthday bash. Well, top 5 jobbers. Okay. Top 5 jobbers. Now, these are the jobbers I believe did a great job in enhancing the talent and creating some excitement for the fans. Some unexpected surprises, as I like to call it. Number 5, I would agree, Johnny Rodz is on that list. Johnny Rodz competed a long time in Madison Square Garden and in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. He was a great contender for the junior heavyweight title held by Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami. He's done great against all the top stars. Really took him to the limit. But Johnny Rodz, number 5 of my top 5 jobbers. Number 4, Pat Rose. Did you know Pat Rose owns a tag team victory over Jerry Lawler and Dutch Mantel in Memphis? Well, yeah. He and his brother Bill Rose defeated Jerry the King Lawler and Dutch Mantel in 3 minutes by a countout after Lawler and Dutch Mantel got distracted and got tired of hearing the commentary of superstar Bill Dundee and Buddy Landell in the Bill and Buddy Show. You ought to see that on YouTube. It's tremendous. Look under the Bill and Buddy Show. Memphis. It's just tremendous. But Pat Rose really took it, again, another wrestler that really took it to the talent, especially in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Speaking of Georgia Championship Wrestling, number 3 is the former Alabama Junior Heavyweight Champion, Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson was the longest reigning Alabama Junior Heavyweight Champion for, I believe, 13 years. Mike Jackson really was the really cruiserweight type jobber in Georgia Championship Wrestling, but he really did a great job. He took it to the wrestlers despite his small size. He had great aerial ability, and of course being the Alabama Junior Heavyweight Champion for the past 13 years is nothing to sneeze about. So Mike Jackson, the Alabama Junior Heavyweight Champion, number 3. Number 2, SD Special Delivery Jones. He always does this. Special Delivery Jones. Bang. What the hell? He did that before Cactus Jack did it. SD Jones is a solid wrestler. Believe it or not, he did win his share of matches, especially at the Philadelphia Spectrum. But he was always considered a good jobber, a mid-card jobber for the WWF back in the 70s and in the 80s. By the way, SD Jones nearly won a Battle Royal in 1982 in Philadelphia, which was eventually won by Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. And now, the number 1 jobbers, and I still to this day consider them the best jobbers in the business, Bill and Randy, the Mulkey Brothers. That's right, Mulkey Mania is still running wild. And I can remember back to the day, March 1987, National TV World Championship Wrestling. The Gladiators came in from the West Coast, getting ready for the Jim Crockett Serum World Cup Tag Team Tour. They're going to come in and dominate. But then they ran into Mulkey Mania. Bill and Randy Mulkey. They were dominated by the Gladiators, and then one simple move. Gladiator number 1 tried to slam Bill Mulkey into the ring, tripped over Randy Mulkey. Bill hooked the leg. 1, 2, 3. It is over. Mulkey Mania was born. The crowd went nuts. People talked about this for a long, long time. I think they're still competing semi-actively in an independent circuit down in the Carolinas. But to this day, and I swear to God, I would have booked them at least to the semifinals of the Jim Crockett Serum World Cup Tag Team Tournament. That would have been huge. Huge. So Randy and Bill Mulkey, my number 1 jobbers of all time. And that's my emails. I want to thank those 2 for sending in their emails with their questions. Hope you enjoyed my answers to them. Hope I answered your questions as well. Sometime down the road again, this year, I'll do it once again, and you can send in your questions. Let's keep it up. Let's keep up whenever I ask that you send in your questions. Please do so. It's real fun. Believe me, I just answered those 2 emails. I'll answer yours right here on this show. Now, our finale to the birthday bash right here on the Nitro Corner. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking Coke, the official salt drink of the Nitro Corner, because Coke is it, and Pepsi, they want to talk about being the choice of the new generation. They ain't the choice of my generation. Coke is it. Now, as promised, I'll end with a story. As many people know, No Holds Barred was recently released on DVD, as you can see right here. There's the back of it. And here's an interesting story about No Holds Barred. When it was first announced that it was going to be released, we had one movie theater here in the Dover area. It was called Movie 6. Why? Because we had a billboard on top of that building stating the 6 movies that was going to be there. That's why it was called Movie 6. 6 theaters with the 6 movies. Well, No Holds Barred was announced that will be released here in Delaware on the 4th of July weekend. Actually, on my birthday, July 1st, 1989. No Holds Barred was going to be released at the Movie 6. And you know that this was going to be interesting. And they had hardly any competition that year, that first weekend. And by the way, when I went down there, I had a lot of expectations about No Holds Barred, that it was going to bring some legitimacy to professional wrestling. Well, it kind of didn't, because it sounded so scripted, sounded so Hollywood when I looked at it. Yes, Hulk beat Zeus, and then I hear the next week on television, Zeus was becoming quite a problem on the set of No Holds Barred when it was made. I figured, this is a storyline, isn't it? This is a story. I thought it was going to bring some legitimacy to professional wrestling, but it kind of felt more storyline-like. But I always held out for high hopes, because at least with that, we could bring professional wrestling to the central Delaware area, because besides the ECWA, which rarely at that time, I don't know whether they had run their monthly cards back in 1989, but Delaware hasn't really seen that much wrestling at that time since 1986. I do believe was a conspiracy by our state government to avoid professional wrestling here in Delaware. I don't know why, but 2 years after that movie was released, there was a live independent card in Smyrna, Delaware in 1991. Well, at least it accomplished something. Anyway, I digress. Back to No Holds Barred's story. No Holds Barred was received well. It was sold out that first weekend. That's right. I got a rare seat. I think I'm 4 or 5 rows down to the floor, but I had my seat. It was completely sold out that first weekend, and No Holds Barred did pretty good. So I figured, okay, it was a pretty okay movie. I'll support the Hulkster. I'll go see it next weekend. Well, next weekend, it was competing against Batman. That's right, Batman. Just released with Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton. However, this time with No Holds Barred, the second showing, half showed up. Half. And after I read Monday that they were not doing too well at the box office, and Batman was just cleaning their clock, I knew that No Holds Barred was destined for the VHS tape thing in October real quick, and I was right. No Holds Barred stopped their run here in Delaware about maybe 2 months after it was released. I think it was replaced by, I believe, I think a Robin Williams comedy. I'm not really too sure about that. But No Holds Barred had the immediate impact, but the problem was it ran into Batman the very next weekend, and it didn't do too well at the Movie 6. So that's my story of No Holds Barred and its immediate impact in the Dover area as far as people going to see it. Well, that is it for this special edition of the Nitro Corner's birthday blowout. I want to thank, first off, my emailers for sending in their questions. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here today on the Nitro Corner's birthday blowout. Until next week, everyone, this is Paul the Nitro Skivers, turning 38 this Sunday. Thanks so very much. We'll see you next week on the Nitro Corner. So long, everybody.